No, can you hear me okay? All right. Thank you. My name is Robin Abad Octavillo, and I am Program Manager for Shared Spaces. And I'm here with my colleagues Gregory Slocum from Public Works, Parim Patel from the Municipal Transportation Agency, Annie Yalon from Planning, and Chiwei from Public Works. Also want to give special thanks to our friends at Self-Help for the Elderly, Kiefer.
Yeah.
And Marcus. Thank you so much for your work. And we're also working with some nonprofit partners. SF New Deal, Ho Chen is here from SF New Deal, so if you have questions, you can also ask. Thank you for hosting us this afternoon. We're here to talk about shared spaces, moving out of the pandemic and into a post-pandemic program.
So can you give me some time to translate?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
即係好快翻譯下咯。咁呢個 Robin 咧，佢就呢個關於我哋 partner 嗰個 program 嘅經理嚟㗎。所以今日咧，我哋嚟呢度同你哋主持呢個會議咧，就我哋除咗我哋公務局咧，同埋仲有 City Planning 啦，即係市府計劃局，同埋有 MTA 即係交通嗰啲人都喺度，仲有呢啲我哋即係 non-profit 嘅partner 咯，好似安老啊，同埋你係邊一間嘅 ？Sorry，
Ho Chen SF New Deal。
哦 ，Ho Chen SF New Deal 都喺度嘅，所以今日好歡迎你嚟咁佢今日咧就主講咯，即係關於我哋呢個 partner 咧，即係好似疫情之後咧，我哋點樣開始即係要處理呢個問題咁樣，差唔多要開始㗎。
So today we'll talk a little bit about how a recent law passed by the Board of Supervisors impacts the future of the program. And there are some very specific questions that we received about rules and regulations after the pandemic. And we'll also talk about some grants and resources that are available to help parklet operators transition to a post-pandemic permit.
Okay. 即係呢啲咧就係我哋收到好多啲人嘅問題咧，就係關於我哋即係疫情之後即係 partner 點樣嘅情況咁樣，所以今日佢就會講啲關於即係呢個主題喺度咯，同埋有啲即係資料可以俾你哋知道有啲咩資源你哋可以利用嘅。
So shared spaces are outside. Sometimes they are in a vacant parking lot or in a surface lot. Sometimes they're just on the sidewalk, like with sidewalk tables and chairs permits or outdoor dining. Sometimes neighborhoods will close the entire street, maybe for a weekend or part of the weekend, like here on Grand Street through much of the last couple years. But today we're going to focus on parklets, which are in the parking lane, usually where cars are parked.
咁我哋即係共享空間咧，或者共用空間咧，多數都係出邊嘅 ，OK？ 咁有啲咧就會係街邊咧，有啲係 sidewalk， 有啲咧就係空地上邊嘅。但係今日我哋主要嚟講咧，就係關於嗰個 partner 咧喺嗰啲停車位嗰邊嘅，關於嗰部分嘅 ，OK？
Before we talk about some of the technical issues, I just wanted to invite anyone in the room to nominate a shared spaces hero. So shared spaces are all created by merchants. They're all created by small business owners, people who came to start restaurants, to serve their communities. And we love to tell the stories and to help share stories about the backgrounds and the reasons that small business owners decided to do the work that they do. So if you're interested in nominating yourself or someone in your community, please let us know. Email us at Shared Spaces.
咁我哋我哋都希望可以鼓勵啲大家咧可以即係參加呢個 program， 所以我哋就呢個咧就係關於如果你覺得你自己做得幾好啦，或者你知道邊個做得幾好，你都可以同我哋即係提名佢哋，我哋會即係公開佢哋嘅即係有啲做啲咩嘢啊，俾大家知道。你就係可以利用呢個 email address 提名咯，你可以提名你自己都 OK 㗎。
Also, if there's a particular space or a particular parklet that you really love, or you think there's a wonderful story, community story, we'd also like to share that as well. So please please let us know.
從而如果你有啲好啲故仔啊，你都可以話俾我哋聽，我哋都可以同大家分享嘅。
So now we'll talk a little bit about grants. Later we'll look at some of the safety rules, the rules for accessibility. This means that many parklets that exist now, that were created during the pandemic, will need to be modified, they'll need to be changed in order to make them safe and in order to make them accessible. So we know that that work will cost money. There'll be some expense to buy new materials or reconfigure the design of your site. So there are grants that are available at sf.gov, shared-spaces equity. There's an application there. These are grants up to $2,500 to help offset some of the costs associated with making parklets safe and accessible.
咁即係好多partner 咧都係疫情期間大家整好嘅，所以而家咧過咗嗰啲疫情之後咧，我哋都有啲補助金俾大家咯，可以申請嘅。如果你真係想申請咧，可以喺下邊嗰個 website 邊度申請。咁我哋會有2500蚊嘅費用俾你哋，可以支持你整嗰個partner 咁樣嘅，可以記住嗰個 website 咯。
There are other grants also that will be made available. They'll be announced later this year. And these grants are associated with some of the larger shared spaces, the ones that involve closing streets and the ones that are on vacant lots or on surface parking lots. So we'll be announcing those towards the end of the year.
咁將嚟遲啲咧，今年我哋都會有更加多嘅補助金可以俾大家嘅，可能大啲嘅項目嘅，但係而家仲未有，但係遲啲我哋會有嘅。
So one of those future grants is for arts and culture, and those will be targeted at performers and entertainers and artists to bring their art and their performances to public spaces.
咁我哋共享空間，我哋都希望咧可以俾啲藝術家或者文化界啲人士咧可以使用嘅，所以我哋都有呢啲撥款咧係俾佢哋嘅，好似文化同埋藝術嘅。
There will also be other grants available for technical assistance. A lot of times this is for needs around staffing or planning for street closures.
仲有其他嘅，好似計數部分嘅補助或者撥款都可以申請嘅。
Also, we know that there's a lot of need for support and assistance with grants. But there's not enough funding to give everyone everything that they need to make some of these changes. So we're looking at certain parts of the city, certain geographies, where we know that communities have been most impacted by COVID. So that's one of the main criteria that we're looking at as we're trying to decide where to make grants. Every neighborhood in the city, every supervisor district, every commercial area will get grants, but we're going to concentrate them in areas that have been most impacted by COVID.
OK， 咁我哋都希望可以照顧所有啲人，尤其咧係嗰啲佢哋係疫情期間咧最受到最大影響嘅，所以我哋都有撥款嘅時候，佢哋都有啲優先嘅條件可以選擇嘅。而家可以問問題。
There are grants, as you mentioned earlier, at Shared Spaces Equity. The Office of Economic and Workforce Development also has other grants that are available, so we just want to take this opportunity to help you know about those as well at sf.gov/sf-shines. These are grants to help with design. These are grants to help with the interior of your businesses, your storefronts. So they are sources that you can pursue that can supplement the grants that you get to help with your outdoor parklet.
咁除咗我哋自己嘅 program 咧，其他單位好似 OEWD 咧，好似前面嗰個咧， 佢哋下邊嗰個 website sfgov/sfshines， 佢哋都有其他嘅經費可以俾你哋申請嘅。如果你哋中意可以都想咧，你哋知道可以邊度可以揾到資資源嘅。
Also, very important to remember that if you if you have a parklet and want to continue operating the parklet after April 1, 2023, you must submit a permit application to us. That permit application is due on January 15th, 2023. Please, if you can, try and submit an application early. You can submit it tomorrow. The earlier you submit an application to us, the sooner we can get back to you with feedback about what to adjust in order to make your parklet safe and accessible.
如果你希望你出年4之後可以繼續使用你哋嘅 parklet 咧，你一定要喺what's the deadline?
January 15th.
1月15號之前咧提出你嘅申請嘅，你要申請一個 permit 先可以繼續使用嘅。
Sometime in the last few weeks, and maybe in the next few weeks, if you operate a parklet, you will receive a compliance advisory from us in email. What the compliance advisory does is it tells you everything that we've noticed might need to be changed at your parklet in order to make it safe and accessible. These are all the items that need to be fixed before April 1st, 2023, if you want to continue operating your parklet after April 2023.
跟住落嚟幾個星期咧，你哋可能會收到我哋寄俾你嘅 email， 就係呢個通知，即係通知咧就係話俾你聽咧，你哋而家呢個 part 咧有啲咩地方需要整理或者需要改變啊，或者有啲改變嘅，即係佢哋會話俾你聽。如果你想繼續可以使用你嘅 part 咧，一定要喺出年嘅4月1號之前整好晒呢啲嘢嘅先可以。
So I'm going to pass the mic over to my friend Greg, my friend and my colleague Gregory. But before I do that, can we do a round of introductions in the room? I'm very curious about who's here. If you could tell us, if you do have a small business, what it is, where you're located, and whether or not you have a parklet or a shared space currently at this time.
OK， 咁我哋希望知道大家咧係邊一間即係餐館㗎，同埋你可以自我介紹一下咯。OK， 我哋想知道下你哋喺邊度嚟嘅，或者你而家有冇嗰啲 partner， 或者冇咧，你希望可以即係申請啊，或者咩嘅。所以我哋而家係請 everybody should do it. Yeah.
Yes,
we
please.
start. OK.
I'm Steph.
Chinese Shepherd. Yeah. So everybody, why don't I start? Shi Wei Lu probably works.
Robin Abad with the Planning Department.
Annie Yuan with the Planning Department.
Oops.
I'm Josh Ng from the Tofu Ramen Noodle. We have a parklet outside, so we just want to get more information.
I'm Randy Al from the Executive Director.
Ian Russia is on the Jackson. We have 2 parking spaces right now. Yeah.
Okay.
708 William Street, the 4-wing Vietnamese restaurant. We have 1 parking space.
Parklet. Okay.
Yeah.
We are located on 716 Jackson Street, Lee Street. Actually, our restaurant have a 34 feet in lift. But right now it is approved to get only 8 feet can be used. That I would like to clarify.
This is Abby from House of Dim Sum on 735 Jackson Street, and we have 1 parklet right now. Thank you.
More. Sorry. Yes, I'm Hans Wanton House. I have 2 stores here in the restaurant. The first one, we have 2 tables on the sidewalk. And the second one, we have a new product. We don't need a shared space. Just wondering, so in the future, if I need continue to put a table on the sidewalk? Do I need to apply for a permit or no?
Yes, and we'll talk about that. And if we don't address it in the presentation, Gregory can answer the question about tables and chairs.
I'm Tracy from Metro Hong Kong, 928 Stockton.
Okay, yeah. And Calvin?
Oh, hi Robin, hi Xu Wei. My name is Calvin, Supervisor of President's Office. 我係個 EC 參事會師，今日係
Thank you for being here. And did everybody get has a handout? Okay, great. Thank you for sharing.
We also have CCDC.
Yes.
Why don't you, yeah.
Hi, I'm Kiefer from Self-Help for LD. 我係安老自助處胡生。
Tan Chow from Chinatown Community Development Center. I don't own an apartment, but I eat a lot in apartment.
我都係安老自助處嘅，我姓司徒。My name is Marcus. I'm also from Self-Help for the Elderly.
Hi, my name is Perrin. I'm with SFMTA. You may have already received a communication email from me. If you want to put the name to the face, I am working in Chinatown for all the parklets.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Gregory Slocum with Public Works. I'm with the commercial permit team. We do food trucks, we do shared spaces, we do street vending and other programs. And I work with Kelly Albers and Marielle Abella, whose names you may have seen on emails. Thank you for having us today, and thank you for your participation in our program.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Ho Chen from SF New Deal, here to help with anything.
Steve from China Press. Steve from China Press. A reporter.
And
26?
Yeah.
You 26?
Okay, yeah, I think we got everybody. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Okay, that made me hungry. Okay, so I'll pass it over to my friend and colleague Greg to talk about the next few slides.
我哋而家係我哋高忙黨另外一個經理過嚟同大家解釋。
This good spot.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. What a lovely fall afternoon in Chinatown. Thank you for all coming inside to spend some time with us. As I mentioned, my name is Gregory Slocum. I work with Public Works. Our team does approvals for temporary occupancy, for food trucks, for a lot of different permits. In this community, if there's typically a problem, concern, it may go to Shiwei. Eventually, Shiwei asks around and it will come back to my team when appropriate to assist. So we're a team, we work together. And today, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about some design specifications for this program. Slide, please. So, we have a priority. There's lots of different rules, but it makes a lot of sense what we place emphasis on. We need to have accessibility for all members of our community. We need to make sure that the site is safe. You can't enjoy dinner if you're in peril. We need to make sure that there are clear sight lines so that pedestrians are not endangered, so that cars don't hit things inadvertently, and again, so that diners can relax. And then abandonment, light, graffiti, non-use. These sites are meant to be used for a defined purpose. They're not meant to be garbage storage, or they're not meant to be placeholders. We can talk about that some more. Slide, please.
OK， 即係好簡單，即係已經好清楚喺度㗎啦。我哋即係如果你哋有嗰啲 part 要設計嗰陣時咧，有幾個方面你哋都要需要即係特別注意嘅，好似即係有啲即係設施係俾嗰啲殘障人士㗎啦，同埋消防啊、安全啊，同埋你嗰啲 partner 咧都唔係阻住啲視線咧，啲人見或者揸車見唔到行人啊，行人見唔到車啊嗰種嘅。同埋咧，如果有啲 graffiti 啊，或者有啲即係好似有啲嘢好似擺喺度冇人理都唔可以嘅，所以呢啲都係全部我哋一陣間會討論嘅項目嚟嘅。
Okay, some photos here. So I'm going to go through some of these photographs, and there's going to demonstrate some of the safety features that are necessary for sites. Always, we need a clear path of travel on sidewalks with diverters. In Chinatown especially, there's a lot of pedestrians. It's tough to get through the sidewalk. We don't want furniture on there that's clogging it up for accessibility. You'll also notice the 3-foot vertical gap here. And the reason that we need that gap is so that the fire department can prop a ladder against buildings Annie and the team have made some slides that demonstrate that more clearly. There's also a restriction on height. You can't go above 42 inches. The reason being is that someone needs to be able to see that from the street standing. They're not on stilts, so from a regular street level, they should be able to see through the parklet to the sidewalk. If they ever had to rescue someone, if they had a 911 call, they don't want to be driving past the block, like where is it? They want to know, they want to be able to see the site. Let's see here, additional ones. We have some reflectors here so that there's visibility in the night and that avoids collisions. I'm not positive on all of the subtext, but accessible facilities for tables and chairs. You need to have some ADA seating, and then you also need to have a street address posted. Again, so that if they're driving, they're not trying to look at doors, they know exactly where they need to be. And clearance for firefighting ladders. Some sidewalks are narrow, and the sidewalk needs to be used by the fire. All of it needs to be used. Some of them that are wider, they don't need to use as much to prop their ladder. And then additionally, for gas heaters, they can't have anything above them that could be flammable or combustible and set it on fire. Setbacks from crosswalks. At an intersection, when you're emerging, you look left, you look right. If something's in your way here, you can't see through it. So we need to move that back so that they can see pedestrians and other oncoming traffic.
OK， 所以呢張 slide 咧就最主要嘅幾樣嘢咧，你哋即係整嗰個 partner 嗰陣時一定要遵守嘅。好似第一個咧就你一定要即係西灣一定要落尺嗰啲闊，你先可以即係行人可以行到嘅。同埋咧，你 partner 中間咧需要3尺嘅，即係距離，即係啲好似消防啊，佢哋樓梯啊可以過嘅，而且需要開嘅，即係唔可以 close 喺上邊，一定要開先得嘅。呢邊咧就係你哋嗰啲 partner 有個高度嘅限制嘅，你唔可以太高，因為啲人咧如果有啲咩意外嘅時候咧，如果你太高，啲人係街邊見到就唔 OK 嘅，所以佢係限制42寸之下先可以嘅，唔可以高過42寸嘅。跟下邊咧就係話你 partner 出邊一定有你嘅地址，所以如果真係有咩事，我哋知道邊一個係邊個地址嘅。同埋你出邊擺啲嘢咧都要即係可以有啲殘障人士可以坐低可以使用嘅。同埋咧，你嗰啲 partner 都需要擺啲辦公嘅材料咯。所以如果晚黑嗰陣時咧，啲人可以見到有啲 structure 喺度嘅。同埋呢兩個咧就呢個咧就係話你，因為我哋 Townhall 咧太陽房嗰啲 sidewalk 好逼㗎嘛，所以你一定要足夠嘅空間咧擺，即係俾嗰啲樓梯防火落樓梯用嘅。同埋呢個咧，如果你有暖氣咧，有嗰啲燒嘅暖氣咧，你千祈即係唔可以有高度喺上邊有嘢，如果唔係可以即係可能火燭咯。同埋你如果擺啲嘢旁邊一定有5尺先得㗎 ，OK。同埋呢個就係你個 partner 咧一定唔可以好近嗰啲crosswalk 咯，因為你需要足夠嘅空間俾啲人過馬路嘅時候，佢哋可以見到車或者開車啲人可以見到嗰啲行人。
Accessibility. So when we see the image here, this is an accessible site. It has a clear path of travel. I can easily get from the crosswalk onto the corner. I can get to the bus stop if I need to. And additionally, you see that the sidewalk's not obstructed at all, and that there are diverters in front of the table and chairs so that if I have a sight impairment and I'm walking with a cane, that it taps the diverter before I walk onto a patron. So diverters are placed there. There's a 6-foot continuous path of travel. It's easy to get through. If I were in a chair or if I were pushing a stroller, I could get right through that site and demonstrate strong accessibility.
OK， 呢個最緊要就係關於嗰啲殘障人士可以入到即係街邊啊或者 sidewalk 啊，同埋咧，如果你有嗰啲 partner 咧，你一定要擺啲即係障礙木，即係好似咩木頭啊或者咩嘢擺喺前邊。所以啲人如果佢係睇唔到嘢嘅，佢有即係有啲障咧，可以即係行路嗰陣時，佢知道前邊有嘢嘅，所以佢唔會跌親嘅。即係呢啲都係關於呢方面嘅安全方面嘅要求。
One more thing. Facilities must be accessible. If you build a parklet, there has to be ADA accessibility into it and a dining area. If you have tables and chairs on the sidewalk, you must have designated ADA seating there. You can't combine the two. So I can't have a parklet that doesn't have accessible seating but say it's going to be on the sidewalk or vice versa. This is all in public space and therefore it's important that all of it is accessible to that extent.
所有係公共空間啲，好似即係台啊，或者凳啊，或者你係有 partner 喺 parking 嗰邊咧，全部都要可以俾殘疾人士入到先得㗎 ，OK？ 而且咧，如果你有 partner 又有嗰啲台同埋凳咧擺喺 sidewalk， 兩個都一定要俾即係殘疾人士用得先可以嘅，唔可以話一邊有一邊冇唔得嘅，一定要有嘅。
Next slide, please. Too much stuff, nowhere to go.
6尺，6尺寬，嗰啲服係 sidewalk 嘅。
Better, yeah, we're getting there. There should be some diverters in front of those tables so that somebody can tap it with a cane, but at least I can get through here now.
呢個都好清楚，6尺。
You don't need to build a parklet if you don't have good parking spaces to do it. You can seek to use the sidewalk, just make sure it's accessible.
即係如果你sidewalk 咧夠服，同埋你如果冇嗰啲 parking 可以用都冇所謂，你可以用 sidewalk， 但係都要即係遵守我哋嘅規定。
The platform is even with the sidewalk, so it's very easy for anyone to get into it. And the ADA facility on the sidewalk is an appropriate height, so I can easily sit at it without having any modification.
即係如果你有 partner， 你都需要同嗰啲 sidewalk 一齊嘅，先即係可以幫助嗰啲殘疾人士出入嘅。
3-foot gaps are there so that if the firefighters ever had to get into that upper part of the building, they can easily ladder against it. Looks pretty good.
呢個最緊要就係俾消防。
We don't like the trees there though, so avoid putting the gap proximate to the trees. You cannot cut trees yourself.
By the way， 即係你哋唔可以即係自己整樹嘅，你需要攞 permit 先得㗎，即係俾啲資料俾你哋呀。
Ah, there they are. That's a demonstration. That's why we need a 3-foot gap. They could easily be bringing someone out on a gurney as well.
就係呢個咯，係消防人員可以用嘅。
Okay, and then, yeah, you see the gap, you see, without those gaps, the firefighters can't shimmy in with the ladder. They have to go around, bringing equipment. If it's a narrow sidewalk, they won't have accessibility. All the time that they waste trying to go around instead of right through is time they could be helping you.
即係你整嗰個 partner 嗰陣時咧，就唔可以阻住人哋嘅出入口嘅，好似呢個咧就係阻住人哋嘅出入口，同埋咧你唔可以中間冇分開嘅，因為我哋啱啱講過，你需要3尺咧可以俾嗰啲消防局佢哋使用，如果真係有咩火災或者咩嘢嘅，同埋呢個喺what is this slide? I couldn't see. Yeah.
It's too wide, it's too long.
Oh, it's too long. 呢個係太長唔得㗎。
So your 3-foot gap, just make sure too, inside your parklet, there's a plant there so the responders can't get through. If they're seating there, they can't get through. And if there's cords on the top, they can't put the ladder across. So it's important that that 3-foot gap, all the way from the sky to the floor, totally clear.
Yeah， 啱啱我哋提到嗰個3尺嗰個emergency access 咧，就係等家嘅出入口咧，係因為呢幾個原因，你嗰邊咧唔可以擺啲即係樹仔啊或者咩即係plants 擺喺度嘅，阻住嗰個位置，同埋唔可以有啲線啊電線啊都係，因為如果有個梯咧好大好長嘅，唔可以過得嘅，同埋唔可以擺 tables and chairs 咯，同埋都唔可以有即係牆咧即係。成個阻住，即係唔可以移開嘅，都唔可以嘅。
We get lots of questions about electrical cables. They need to be able to pull the plug out quick so that if the firefighters get to your restaurant, they're not figuring out where it's plugged in, they're not cutting things, they're not hoisting, it's just yank it like it's a lamp, get into where you need to be. These are not accessible because it's too hard to get over them with the chair. This is not acceptable because they hardwired it to the building. Another reason you don't want to do that, in addition to our firefighters having issues trying to ladder this, it's going to require a building permit. So now you're in a situation, they call DBI after this too. We want to keep it as simple as possible. Less permits is better for everyone. Don't do that, please.
所以呢幾樣嘢咧，就係、你如果有啲電線啦或者咩嘅，好容易可以即係即係可以即係好似如果真係有咩緊急嘅事件嘅時候，你可以好快咧可以即係即係 disconnect 佢哋嘅電線嘅 ，OK。同埋咧，你下邊嗰圖咧，你唔可以咁樣整，因為嗰啲殘障人士咧，如果係輪椅咧，佢哋好即係唔覺得嘅。同埋你唔好整嗰個即係好似金屬嘅嗰啲管咧，即係擺嗰啲電線嘅，因為如果係咁樣，你需要攞 permit， 而且咧，即係如果火燭嗰陣時咧，消防局咧佢哋要擺嗰啲樓梯都唔方便。
Also, you want one cord. So, one cord here, really easy to pull out. You see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Too much. You can't pull out. You can't do it quickly. This is for fire safety. That's why it's a standard.
即係一條電線，即係冇好多條電線咁樣。
So this site's good because it's not too high. Looks like there's clearance, as you can see. They didn't build all the way out to the T. They left some space, and their emergency gap goes all the way up.
呢個就符合我哋所有嘅要求嘅 ，OK。佢哋唔係高過42吋啦，同埋咧佢哋嗰啲 parking 嗰個唔係佔住所有全部嗰個 parking 有少少嘅空間嘅，同埋佢中間都有3尺嘅嗰個即係空間咧，可以俾消防人使用。所以嗰啲消防員唔可以睇到咯，就係因為咁樣，所以唔可以睇高。
This one, you see they kind of did a gap there, but there's no way you could get the building through the roof, so it's no good. And then they have those plants there that look beautiful. It looks lovely, but a firefighter can't see through that.
呢個都係錯誤嘅示範嚟嘅，因為首先佢哋擺嗰啲plants 喺度咧，就阻住啲人嘅，即係睇唔到前邊有啲咩嘢，同埋中間咧佢哋又加頂咧，又加嗰啲嘢。真係如果消防人員佢哋樓梯要過嗰陣時咧過唔到嘅，因為佢哋前上邊有個頂嘅。
This is good because even though that gap, those boards, they can flop out very quickly if they need to kick it out. So some businesses have been concerned about patrons wandering into the roadway. If you had children at a table, how do I keep them in the parklet and still have a gap? That's a good example how. And height is good. They can see over it. Looks good.
咁有啲咧，佢哋擺呢啲嘢係因為可能佢哋有時唔希望佢哋嗰啲人客咧，即係如果細路哥佢哋即係走出街咧，所以好危險嘅，所以佢哋擺啲嘢。但係呢啲嘢好似呢2條咧，即係木板咧，需要好容易可以攞開嘅，所以如果真係有咩緊急事件嗰陣時，佢哋好快可以處理嘅。
Okay, so we have our address there. That's good. This is the same one we just looked at, but from the front. It still doesn't have the gap, and it still has the plants. It's a very pretty parklet, certainly. It's not going to be able to coast on good looks. It's not compliant.
呢個咧就係佢哋出邊有嗰啲地址咯，所以係咁嘅。但係一樣係上邊係封住嘅，所以唔得嘅。
Now, so we've had a lot of questions about heaters because it gets very cold and folks want to know how they can keep patrons warm. The fire department is very sensitive about gas-powered heaters. They don't want any type of combustible element in it. So if you have a parklet that has any type of roof, you can't put a heater like this in it at all. If you have an open deck parklet, you could potentially put in a heater like this.
如果你使用嗰啲丙烷啊、propane 啊或者 gas 啊嗰種 heater 咧，你哋只可以係全部係開放嘅空間先可以使用嘅。如果你上面有丙嘅係唔可以使用，因為好容易火燭嘅，所以唔安全。呢個就 OK， 因為上邊冇頂嘅，呢個就唔得。
This is good because it's not enclosed so that there's airflow. So, you know, one of the issues with this program emerged from COVID, and we needed to make sure that there was good air circulation. So it meets that standard, but if a firefighter is right on the other side, there's no way they're going to be able to see through if somebody was in trouble.
呢個咧就佢咧好就係佢係通風嘅，即係空氣可以流通嘅。但係佢唔啱嘅地方就係佢已經高過，即係好高咯，你見到。所以如果出邊有消防人員咧，佢哋見到入邊係咩情況嘅，所以呢個就唔啱。
And I believe my colleague Corinne will take it over from here. Thank you.
OK， 而家我哋係公車局佢就係同大家解釋其他方面啲資訊。
Yeah, so with the curb and with our parking lanes, we know our curbs are used in so many different ways. We have parklets, which are brand new, or somewhat new. We have loading zones. We need parking. We need space for movement, loading, and so at MTA we're here to prioritize and figure out what works best. If we have a street full of parklets, we don't have any room for loading, or we don't have any room for your cars. We don't have access to public spaces. So what our role is to just make sure there's a balance of everything for your neighborhood.
OK， 呢位同事咧，佢就同大家嘅解釋關於嗰啲 curb side， 即係 curb 就係你路邊旁邊嗰個地方，因為除咗我哋擺嗰啲 parklet 之外咧，有時咧你即係落課啦、上課都係需要用到嘅，所以佢今日咧就同大家講多啲關於呢方面嘅要求。
So a little bit of what we look at is transit, daylighting, yellow, white, blue zones. It's a blue ADA parking spot, MTA will not permit in that whatsoever. If it's a white or a yellow, we can look at it and see if there is a sustainable place we can relocate it so that your block still has loading.
OK， 如果咧你嘅即係你知我哋 curb 咧都有紅色嘅黃色同埋白色嘅，同埋 blue 嘅就係殘障人士使用嘅。如果你係 blue 嘅咧，佢係公車局係唔俾 permit 嘅。但係如果你係yellow 咧同埋白色同埋黃色，佢哋要睇下先可以決定係咪可以俾得。
So visibility at intersections, we want to make sure that pedestrians, bicyclists, drivers, they can see who's crossing at an intersection, whether they need to turn, or they need to see the stop sign, or they need to see a traffic light. So it's very important that if you're up against an intersection and your car is approaching, that you're set back at least 20 feet so that you can see a full visibility of the intersection. If you drive through an intersection, we're asking for 8 feet daylighting. So approaching intersection 20, past an intersection 8 feet, so that we can have a full view of the intersection for all people that use it.
所以如果你個 partner 咧就係好似十字路口嗰陣時咧，佢哋即係大家對即係行人嘅安全好緊要嘅，所以你一定要即係啱佢哋要求咧，就係你嘅 partner 咧需要擺喺街邊8尺到20尺，即係睇下你係咩情況。因為咁樣咧就係啲人咧行人都好啦，或者踩單車嘅，或者即係揸車嘅。佢哋都可以見到嗰啲行人，同埋有啲即係或者 stop sign 啊，有啲嘢即係全部都係為咗行人安全設計嘅。
Another part of the shared spaces program is that we're looking at a 2 parking space maximum for most cases. You might have a storefront long enough for 6 parking spaces. To make sure we have that balance of loading, for parking, for public uses, we have a minimum of 2 spaces. We're also asking, and this is another requirement through fire, is that if you have a business right next to you and you both want parklets, we're asking for this 3-foot setbacks right here. and then 3 feet at the ends of each parking space as well. So if you have one business with 2 spaces, you might have 2 spaces here, and then we need the gap for 6 feet for your neighbor's parklet as well.
OK， 咁即係而家我哋嘅規定就係咧，即係無論你嘅即係出邊個街邊有幾大咧，但係我哋最多係俾2個車位嘅位置俾你哋可以擺 parklet 㗎。所以咧，即係好似你睇到而家係咁樣嘅。如果你同埋你隔離嘅鄰居咧，佢哋都要有擺呢個parklet，你中間都要3尺先可以嘅。啱啱我哋提到嗰啲安全嘅理由，都係咁樣。你可以平行嘅啦，或者斜嘅啦，或者係垂直嘅都可以嘅。但係只係可以2個車位。
This is a really good example of a parklet that meets all the visibility requirements. They have the setbacks right here to make sure if a car, say this was a parking spot, a car is not going to back right into their parklet. They have the proper visibility signage, stickers, as well as the signs on here to say no parking.
呢個就係好好嘅一個sample 咯，俾你睇咁樣，你睇到佢哋擺嗰啲辦公嗰啲貼紙啊，同埋嗰啲嘢擺喺度咧，啲人知道如果有車位前面如果係車位，佢哋可以唔會即係喐到你嘅 partner 咁樣，即係呢個係好嘅 sample 嚟㗎。
So this is why we have the setbacks, is so that this car is now no longer going to hit this parklet. This is not a good example because a firefighter, no one can get through in case of an emergency. Similar here, there's not a path through.
即係好似第一個咧，就係你擺啲嘢喺度咧，所以如果前面可以係車位嚟嘅，所以佢哋唔會撞到你哋。另外2個咧就唔啱，因為你知即係唔夠伏啦，同埋呢邊咧佢擺啲嘢喺度咧，如果即係消防人員或者醫護人員佢哋需要即係急救嗰陣時就過唔到嘅，唔得㗎。
And so when you're submitting an application for the permanent legislative program, there are 3 different types of parklets you could apply for. One is the public parklet, which was prior to the pandemic. It's open use for anybody to sit and enjoy the space. This one over here, the commercial parklet, is what a lot of people are using today. It's strictly for your business to serve your customers in. And then in the middle, we have a movable parklet. So this is maybe you only want to set it up, put out barriers like Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this is you just go out and you put out the barriers and then you take them back in at the end of the night or whatever your time frame is.
OK， 咁我哋即係空間嘅使用有3種唔同嘅。第一種咧，其實我哋疫情之前都已經有㗎啦。呢個就係公共嘅空間，你可以使用，可以擺啲 parklet 咁樣嘅。咁第2種咧就係呢種咧就係可以移動嘅，即係平時你可能你或者咩固定嘅時間，你希望可以擺啲嘢出嚟，但係你唔需要嘅時候，你可以收埋嘅。OK。第3種咧就係固定嘅，就係擺喺度嘅。通常咧，可能大家都係呢一種嘅固定嘅咁樣嘅。我哋多數啱傾嘅都係關於呢一種嘅，但係有3種唔同嘅即係使用嘅即係方法。
And then this is a little bit of information on what the 3 types of parklet uses pertain. And so I talked about public parklet. The entire parklet needs to be accessible to everybody. In a commercial parklet, there must be at least 1 seated facility during the hours of commercial operation. So even though you're serving customers, there must be 1 space that can be open to the public at all times. Can you go back, sorry, real quick? And so there's also different types of hours of operations for each one as well.
OK， 咁呢啲咧就係俾多啲資料俾你關於即係3種唔同嘅 partner 咯。第一種咧就係你即係第一種公共嘅路邊嘅 partner 咧，就你平時可以即係唔可以有商業嘅活動嘅，24小時都可以嘅。即係如果你係第3種咧，即係好似商業即係路邊嘅 partner 咧，你就係即係你開鋪嘅時候，你一定有一個至少有一個地方係可以俾即係人客可以使用嘅。
And then this is the use types and fees. So each type of parklet use will have their occupancy fees. You have a one-time permit fee, and then you'll have an annual license to keep the parklet going. So if you have only one parking space, it's this one, and then every additional one after, you have to pay an additional fee. There is a half off fee waiver for businesses with less than 2 million in SF gross receipts.
OK， 呢個就係我哋關於呢三種唔同嘅partner 嘅收費咯。你可以睇到嘅，第一個咧就係你第一個 parking space 嘅，即係好似第三種你第一個 parking space 3000，第二個咧就係1500嘅。OK， 一年你要俾2000蚊嘅，即係 annual fee 嚟嘅。OK， 但係咧如果你每年嘅收入咧唔足200萬咧，你可以有一半嘅即係 discount 嘅，可以50% discount 嘅。
And then I'll hand it off to Robin.
OK。
Okay, so we're almost done, and then we can get to questions and answers because I know folks have lots of questions. Starting in April 2023, when the pandemic program ends and the permanent program takes its place, there is a requirement for every parklet to have a bench, a public seat. So think maybe one or two seats, maybe where two people can sit down. Maybe it's a grandparent and their grandchild, or maybe it's a couple that's out on a date, or just or somebody who's using a wheelchair, maybe a mobility impaired person and their companion. So this is just, it has to be within the parklet footprint, and the design and the location, the placement of the public benches is flexible. There's just a requirement to make sure that that one portion of your parklet is available to anyone who might be passing through the neighborhood.
出年4月開始咧，我哋即係已經過咗疫情，所以我哋開始呢個要求咧，就係你每一個 partner 咧一定要起碼咧，佢有規定係每20英尺嘅長度嘅路邊嘅公共空間，你一定至少有一個位可以俾人哋坐低可以使用嘅。係出年4月開始，我哋係呢個新規定。I just have a question. Yeah. So is that like for this seating area? Is that like even without their opening hours, they have to provide?
That's right. So the ordinance that the Board of Supervisors passed specifies that the facility has to be open even if your business is not open. That this opportunity for people to sit down is still there.
所以意思即係明年出年4月開始咧，就算你係你新鋪，但係你嗰個seating咧嗰個位都需要係可以俾人哋使用嘅，呢個係新嘅規定。
Also important to think about drainage and stormwater, rain and flooding. We're having some rains right now. We don't get them very often in the Bay Area, but we do sometimes. The storms can be very intense. So it's important when you're thinking about working with your designer or maybe building or modifying your parklet, make sure that water can still flow along the street to the drain. Sometimes parklets block the gutter, and that can be a problem. It can cause flooding on the sidewalk. It can cause flooding inside the parklet. It can cause flooding of a basement or even the storefront. So it's important to think about designing the parklet so water can still pass under it and to the drain.
Yeah， 即係我哋就要求你哋咧，即係無論你哋係改咧或者新嘅設計咧，關於你嘅 partlet 一定咧可以即係去水可以通嘅，所以你唔可以阻住嗰啲水。雖然我哋唔係好多雨嘅，但係真係落雨嗰陣時咧，嗰個水需要可以經過你哋嗰啲 partlet 學下邊可以流通嘅，可以去到嗰啲去水口嘅。
So here's a bad example, something we don't like to see. There's a board that's blocking the gutter so that water can't pass through. And you can see that water was building up, debris and soil were building up. And that's something we can easily avoid if we just make sure that the underside of the parklet is constructed in a smart way.
好似呢個就係錯誤嘅示範啦，係佢阻住嗰啲水咧，可以即係去到去水嗰邊，所以嗰邊可能會有即係水咧，同埋有啲垃圾啲嘢嘅，其實都唔好嘅。
Also, all of the images that we're looking at and all of the regulations are available at the manual. So there are pictures and there are diagrams. So if you're working with a designer or a contractor to build your shared space, make sure that they're looking at this manual. It has all of the regulations for safety and accessibility.
如果你有人同你設計啦，或者有 contractor 同你整嗰啲 partner 咧，下邊嗰個website 你可以係喺入邊係揾到好多資料嘅。
So this is a great example of a parklet design that will allow water to flow beneath the deck, along the gutter to the drain.
好似呢個咧就係最好嘅示範咯。首先佢同嗰啲curb 係平嘅，同埋下邊係空嘅，所以咧水可以流過去，咁可以去到嗰啲去水口。
Here's another example of a parklet installation that would allow water to flow through. And I really like this example because it shows that a deck is not necessary. You can still create a really inviting, beautiful space without a lot of material investment. That's not, it doesn't have to be a large, expensive construction. It can really be something that's very simple and elegant, but still provides a nice place for people to dine.
呢個咧就係另外一個示範咯。呢個咧就冇嗰啲 platform 係冇嗰啲台嘅，呢個都 OK 嘅。如果你唔需要建咧，都唔需要使呢個錢咧，咁樣都好 nice 好好嘅。Yeah.
Okay, so I know it was a lot of information. Thank you for listening to all of us work through these issues. Please remember that applications are due on January 15th, 2023. If you can submit an application before that, before the end of the calendar year, that's even better, because then we can get you feedback and start working with you on the specifics of your site.
咁記住我哋嘅申請嘅 deadline 咧就係出年嘅1月15號，但係如果你可以早啲咧 submit 你嘅申請就最好嘅，因為我哋多啲時間可以同你哋合作。
Great. So we've referred to many of these resources today in the presentation. We just wanted to leave them up for you so that you can see the manual, the worksheet, which is this handout here, is also available for download. And this will help you prepare all the information and material you need before you submit all of that online. Also, if you are looking for an architect or designer or a general contractor, we have been training designers and general contractors, and we posted a list of all of the designers and general contractors that have attended the city training. So that's also listed here on our website.
Is it free?
Yes.
Are those like the contractor and the architectural design?
I don't know whether or not they're free. You have access to the list, but you would have to talk to them about.
So it's pay. I think there's a problem in terms of parklet in the city. If you look at like even in Chinatown, right? Mr. Jew, China Life, right? Original Joe in North Beach, all the like or Hayes Valley, right? All the Michelin star, they have their own architect, right? They're willing, and the other type of parklet, like more of like the small business, the immigrant business, are not as well off to hire an architect who knows all the code and all the material of design. So lots of like the smaller like immigrant business probably will look for a contractor, right? Building like basement in-law type of construction, right? So I think like that is where like in the last few years, even before like the pandemic, like planning department wanted to promote parklet in Chinatown, but it never works because like no one will hire an architect for $3,000 and then $5,000 to build a parklet and then the annual fee. It's just like, right? So I think like that is where like
if you're looking for a contractor that has been trained, you can look at this list.
But are they free?
So,
they're not, right? I think that
the training is at no cost.
Yeah, the training is free. So anyone can attend the training.
No, I mean, like, if I'm the owner, I want to do a parklet to bring it up to code. I mean, are there resources to look for an architect to provide a free service to the merchants to
there are probably architects out there who work for free. We do not maintain a list of architects who will work for free. But what we can share with you are the firms that have taken the extra step of taking extra training so that they can provide service. Yes,
I was going to say, you can also attend. This is open to anybody to learn how to draw a site plan, how to design. We have also trainings on drawing site plans itself. So you could go and you could learn, how do I draw this out? Because we do require a site plan in the application. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to have the renderings. It could be on a sheet of like those 1x1 centimeter sketchbooks. You can draw it by hand. You could do this all yourself, and we are providing a lot of trainings for you to attend and do it yourself, so you don't have to hire it out.
And SF Shines does have a service grant available out where you can apply for the architectural service of creating a new plan and drawing and site plan at no cost to the business owner.
SF Shine?
SF Shines, yes. That's also in this deck.
That was also.
OK，即係好快啦，因為首先咧呢啲嘢全部都係嗰啲資料，你哋可以即係參考嘅。聽日我哋應該會 post on our website，我哋會喺我哋 website 都有嘅，你哋可以睇嘅。同埋咧，即係啱啱咧聽就提到咧，即係唔係即係大多數啲小商業咧唔係好多錢可以請嗰啲出名嘅設計師或者 so 咁唔係話即係佢就問係咪有啲即係有啲咩service 可以幫手幫大家嘅。首先咧就係、我哋有一個 list， 就係呢啲全部啲 contractor 咧，佢哋係已經經過我哋嘅訓練㗎啦，佢哋知道我哋要求啲咩嘢，咁佢哋應該點樣整先得㗎。所以呢啲嘢全部都係嗰啲 website， 全部都係 list 呀。你可以去到嗰個 website 咧揾佢哋，即係睇下佢哋點收費一點樣，但係佢哋已經 train 過嘅，所以佢哋知道我哋要求啲咩嘢嘅。但係咧唔係話多數啲人都係唔需要即係好負責嘅設計嘅。咁我哋都有啲免費嘅訓練，你可以或者 contract 可以嚟，或者你自己都可以嚟㗎，免費嘅。同埋咧 SF Shines 咧，佢哋都提供啲經費咧俾你哋申請。如果你哋同嗰啲 SF Shines 經過佢哋嘅即係 website 可以申請嗰啲費用，可以幫你即係補貼啲即係設計嘅費用嘅。所以有啲唔同嘅資源你哋可以使用嘅。所以呢個你哋可以即係睇住，好似個 list of architects, designers and builders， 佢哋都已經經過訓練，佢哋即係可以提供多啲即係資料或者俾你哋。
So I did look through the list of architects, and for the next training, can you guys also include what kind of language services they provide? Because I know a lot of merchants, they do not speak English. And when they dial their number, most of the time they're not gonna answer the phone call. And there's a list of architects, and I don't think they will have that patience to call them each one by one. And if you guys provide like articulate what language they speak, that will be helpful to the merchants. And just a quick question for the SF Shine. I know they provide two services. One is the construction funding, and one is the like free design.
Mm-hmm.
Which one you actually mentioning?
The design. The
okay.
construction.
It's not free, right? It's just like they provide funding.
No, they provide the service.
Oh, they
The design is free.
Site plan from an architect.
For free?
Yes, at no cost.
Oh, okay, yeah. So SF Shines 咧，佢哋就可以提供免費嘅，即係design 係咪？然後 SF Shines 佢哋就提供嗰啲設計嘅免費嘅，佢哋有呢個 program，你哋可以睇下。
Thank you for the suggestion.
I got a quick question.
Update the list of architects with any language specialty that they might have. So if they are Chinese speaking or Spanish speaking, we'll find out and we'll update the list. So we're almost done.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, we're almost done.
Yes, my populate I did according to the code of the city.
Okay.
But sometimes they keep on changing the rule and regulation. So since the public is permanent already, So do anybody come and check out parklet to inspect whether it is right or wrong or inform us?
Have you submitted a permit application?
Unfortunately not, but we don't know where to submit.
When you submit a permit application, then then that means that the department will get in touch with you about specific issues to change in order to make your parklet ready for April.
Okay.
OK， 如果你而家已經有個 partner 咧，你一定要申請即係 permit 之後咧，我哋會有人過去睇嘅，話俾你哋知。睇過之後咧，先可以即係知道你哋有咩地方需要改啊或者咩嘅，所以你哋一定要即係申請嗰啲 permit 先 ，OK， 要攞嗰啲 permit 先咯。
Okay, I think let's go to the last. Yeah, okay, yeah. Any other questions that folks have? Yes, please.
Yeah. So this is our front door, right? We have one parking lot, and then how about the meter in the middle? So what we have to do? Because the auto, they always, do I have to pay for the meter? I mean the driver try to park the parking space, just have like a little space left, maybe enough for one car. So they asked me, they should pay for the meter or no?
No parking space should be left open. If you have a parklet, it should be built to the full extent of the parking space so that no car can fit in it. Each parking space should have those T's, those white T's drawn in the road. You should be your parklet should be within those spaces with the 3-foot gaps on the end. And I know there was like a photo, if you want to.
But if they're saying like right now.
If right now, I would say technically yes, they should pay if there's a spot. It's mostly at the driver's own risk, really. But I would say yes, if that space is left available for a car to fit in it. To be on the safer side, I would say.
Okay. Yes.
Pay it. I wouldn't know.
Okay.
But this is what I'm saying, you should see these white T's in the road. If you have a business that has a meter and those things are gone and they're not on the road anymore, you can email MTA and we'll come out there and show you where those T's are supposed to be so that you can modify your parklet so that you're within those parking spaces. So here you see those 3 feet within here for access, you see it over here, now this is 6. And then there should be one, if you have 2 parking spaces, there should be a 3-foot right here as well.
Okay.
So it should be all within the parking T's. You hopefully won't go like this or like that, like they should be within the parking spaces.
因為你見到呢個圖咧，即係你有見到嗰啲白色嘅 T 咧，呢個 T 咧就係嗰啲 parking space 嘅。如果你而家見到嗰啲 T 咧，你哋可以聯絡MTA，佢哋會過嚟話俾你哋聽嘅，係點樣嘅。如果你而家嘅 partner 咧係有好似你啱啱講有嗰啲 parking space 咧，啲人咧問你我需唔需要俾 meter？ 你需要俾錢嘅，但係係喺呢個情況下。
The only time it may be more than 3 feet is if we need to daylight. So if you see there's a parking space that's built all the way to the intersection, we may ask to get that cut back 20 feet. That's the only time it would be more than 3.
Yeah. 但係有時因為嗰啲安全嘅考慮咧，我哋需要多啲空間嘅，所以你可能見到前邊嗰個係3尺嘅，但係有時佢哋要求多啲嘅，係因為睇你嘅街口係咩情況，佢哋需要即係行人安全，所以有啲情況會少少唔同嘅，但係in general 咧就係咁樣。
Yes.
Can I ask in Chinese? 我個鋪頭咧就34尺，有34尺長個闊嘅。
但你俾張 plan 佢哋睇啦。
我或者我俾呢個你睇啊。咁我咧就原先咧我就想申請我個鋪頭咁闊㗎。咁但係咧，鑑於因為我個有第一個車位我可以申請到，但係第2個車位有一半屬於我自己，一半係屬於隔離個鋪頭嘅。咁我需唔因為有啱先差唔多應該係一半係我哋，咁隔離個鋪頭又唔想我哋標喺佢個前邊，唔緊要我唔標佢前邊，但我可唔可以用埋我自己鋪頭嗰一半啊？ 咁同時咧，
俾我問，OK。
因為咧，我想俾呢個圖片睇嘅。
Do you want to come here? Because you know.
因為咧，佢先頭 submit 咗呢個咧，嗱，我哋嘅鋪頭34 feet.
Okay.
But right now, I would like to apply the 34 hole for myself for the outdoor sitting. But half of it belong to mine, and half of it belong to the neighbor. Neighbor don't want us to occupy their space. Can I just apply for 1.5?
No, unfortunately, we cannot split parking meters, so we wouldn't be able to do a half parking space. You can't build to your business frontage if you're in a parking metered zone.
Right, because this is a 34 feet, and I applied it for the first one, and I didn't apply for the second half yet. But for this one, architect helped me to draw the ADA accessibility from this side. So I still have 15 feet. But right now, it was rejected by share space. They need me to go through the ramp from here for the accessibility. Now I have only 8 feet for my parking, for my parking. I have 34, finally only have 8 feet left behind.
ADA related question. It looks like your original proposal had an ADA ramp coming off of the sidewalk.
She's
But somehow got a rejection saying that it's
Simon Bertrand.
So then they cut the parkway into AV instead,
Yeah, that's only 8 feet can be used.
Oh, so she can fall out. Yeah, she. Oh, there's
I see. It wouldn't have been for you guys.
It was the access.
Let me check with
Yeah.
Oh, Vinny.
Yeah, Vinny.
Actually, this one was not approved yet.
Vinny's great.
And was suggested by the share space. So this was submitted, even though it is approved, I don't like this.
So-
It fits. How can I use
I can
it?
refer you, but we can actually help with, the site plan,
We'll need to
drawing the
follow
site
up
plan.
with you, I think. We
And all
can't
the
solve it
application
here
details, and
today.
questions of the manual,
But I
like
think
Martina
Gregory, we
studies
just
the
have
manual very
internally
well.
huddle with Karina about this, like, situations, because, there has, I wonder if there's a,
I understand you don't like the design, but I don't understand what I'm gonna look at. The reason, so Jackson, area, lots of pedestrians, heightened standard for access. It's a short draw, you
So people wanna give
easier
up,
if you're at a site with less people walking up and down in front of the store, but because there's so many folks, this area has so many seniors, people with gained mobility, the access and the disability access coordinators are very strict, and they always err on the side of providing more access to the community than providing more space to the business, if they believe it will prevent pedestrians from walking. So we can go back and I can communicate a little bit more for you. So I understand it, because right in this moment I don't. If I go back to work and I get on it, I can ask some questions. The reason they're asking for that much space is because you're in a very busy part of town.
佢話咧，因為你嗰個地方咧，即係好 busy 嘅，所以我哋私人咧，即係對於你哋好多人即係行路嘅地方。